Cloninger moves on in, and he scores! He's gonna learn today.
What's going on, folks? We're back from the 2-week hiatus we decided to take.
Yeah,
It's been
it was our chance to go to Joshua Tree.
Yeah, it's been a long 2 weeks, let me tell you.
A lot of shrooms.
Yes, much. Many. But regardless, folks, we are back. It is the Pod Street Bullies. I am Derek.
And I am John. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year. Happy Christmas and holidays. That's over. Screw it, we're moving on.
Do you know the words to Auld Lang Syne?
To what?
Auld Lang Syne?
What is that?
The New Year's song?
No, I do not.
Your acquaintance
Oh, that song.
forgot.
That's
Keep
about
your
it.
eye on the grand old flag.
That's the grand old... That I don't...
I blended too.
Yeah, I was
But
going to say, you're trying to mess with me.
But it goes like, for Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for it's a great song to sing when you're drunk because you really don't need to know the words.
Oh, jeez, I don't like singing when I'm drunk. I'm bad at it when I'm sober.
Oh. You know what the best song to sing is when you're drunk?
What?
How dry I am, how wet I'll be if I can't find a place to pee.
Well, guys, this is John Goes Holiday Special. This is like low-budget Michael Bublé here.
You ever call me Michael Bublé again, I will virtually kick your ass.
Listen, it was low-budget Michael Bublé.
Oh, I'm Mikey Bubbles.
Mikey Bubbles, yeah. A little bit
So
of the bubbly. Anyways, we're going to get into some stuff here, guys. Typically, we like to start these things off, recapping some games, right? And I think we're not going to do that this week because it's been terrible.
Screw Disney on Ice.
Disney on Ice can suck it.
I hope they rake in millions for making us be on this road trip from hell.
I hope that whoever the lead person is in Disney on Ice, I don't know the character, I hope they trip and break their leg in 3 places.
That's not very nice.
Don't care. That's how I felt because obviously I'm still recovering from my knee, but it's been painful, just as painful to watch the Flyers play some of these games. It's been bad, guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about games you're supposed to win if you're a contending, air quote, contending team. Ugh.
Right off the bat, 3 games. You should have won those 3. San Jose, Anaheim, LA. What happened was they lost 6-1 against San Jose. They won against Anaheim, but it took overtime. And then they lost 5-3 against LA.
Well, first of all, you put up 1 goal against the Sharks.
That is
Their goaltending
horrendous.
is awful. Their goaltending is so bad.
It is. It's horrendous. It's atrocious.
Then the Anaheim Ducklings take you to freaking overtime, which is insane. And then the Kings. The Kings suck. And they put up 4 goals in the first period.
It was,
right?
God, yeah. It's a period I'd like to forget about. It's the encouraging thing is you see San Jose, like their goal came on the power play, which was nice. They had a power play goal against Los Angeles, against Vegas. Great,
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, but when they're not winning these games that they should be winning, I could sit on here and tell you all about how the power play is looking better, but what does it matter if the team as a whole isn't?
Right. If they beat San Jose like they're supposed to, and then they beat Anaheim, but then they beat the Kings like they're supposed to, the losses to Vegas and Arizona, you're like, all right, you know what? They're pretty good teams. But, you add all that together, and it's just a cluster, you-know-what.
Yeah, I might have failed 3 tests, and on the 4th I get 100, but my average is still an F,
Right, yeah.
That's the story of my college life. But anyways, that's really, honestly, enough for the games. And the only there's 2 little bits of news we could just touch on real quick. Justin Braun's out until the All-Star break. He has a problem with his groin. Haig's going to be back in the lineup. Do you foresee somebody coming up from Lehigh Valley?
Who?
Friedman's probably the next best guy to do so. But, what's the point?
They're just going to have 6 defensemen at this point. God, I hope nobody else gets hurt. But
No, God forbid.
There's nobody worth bringing up at this point.
You're right. And the other has ties to the Flyers, but is more, around the NHL. But we're not doing that today. So Peter Laviolette has just been fired from Nashville.
I saw that.
Half a year too late. But like our good friend Carrie said to me on Twitter earlier, he loves Vigneault. I love Vigneault too. But I'll always have that soft spot for Peter Laviolette.
Definitely. Yeah. Hey, every coach has a shelf life, man. Clearly,
right.
It's not working in Nashville anymore.
You're right. And another thing that is not working, which segues wonderfully into the main point of the show here today, we're going to talk about the second half of the season here. We're 42 games in. There's 40 left. It's been, we could call it a roller coaster and go with that cliche, or we can just say it's been ridiculous and we don't know what to expect.
Dude, I mean, maybe this is going to go back a little bit to what we were talking about, but I think they merged together. You know what I feel like right now? I feel like the freaking Flyers are the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're a bunch of teenagers that went on this vacation and got chopped up by Leatherface. It's insane, man. This road trip, I mean, to then enter the second half of the season after this disgusting road trip, proving that we can't win against anybody on the freaking road. Like, I don't know how you can be excited.
It's crazy.
At this point.
No, it's terrible, and they're 9-13-1 on the road. Like, that's their road record, and it's abundantly terrible.
And how's Katahat?
Katahat is not good on the road, which we'll get into this later. What do you think?
Am I jumping?
No, let's get into it now. Let's talk about it.
I think we just spitball, man. This is all going to talk about the same. We're all going to talk about the same stuff over and over again.
We're going to talk about what's happened thus far. And thus far, the Flyers, we have them sitting at 5th in the Metro. They are 9th in the Eastern Conference. They lose the tiebreaker with Florida for regulation wins, so they're out of the wild card right now. Thank you, Franco, for that point. They're not in the playoffs right now, which they've been for a majority of the year. And so right there, red flag, raises a concern. We posted a poll on Twitter today as well, and give me a second to pull it up here, but we basically asked, are you guys concerned? Because at this point, I think it's fair to ask if people are concerned whether or not this team is going to be a contender come April. But we had 109 votes and 67%, so 2/3 of you said yes. It's they're starting to worry.
I'm a part of that, man.
I'm not.
You're not worrying.
I'm not worrying yet.
What the hell's wrong with you?
What the hell is wrong with you? I like to sit back and I just let things unfold, man. I think.
Listen, first of all,
okay,
you got to be able to win on the road. We can't win. We can't beat the worst teams in the worst freaking division. Okay, I don't know what's going on with Carter Hart. It's like the kid maybe forgets his teddy bear when he goes on the road and he's not feeling good in the hotel beds, but he's a completely different goaltender.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely right.
And I know that there's the whole, well, he's still young and he's still developing. And yes, I get that. But we're supposed to be playoff contenders this year. So although I respect the fact that he's young and he's developing, you still need to point out that the dude sucks on the road.
Yeah, I mean, to your point here, we've got his away numbers. Out of 12 starts, I didn't really count relief appearances. I just counted the starts. You've got he stopped 229 of 271 shots. You know what that's good for? A .845 save percentage, which is abysmal. It's terrible.
That's AHL worthy. That's
not even.
Sent your rear end to the.
That's like when we were talking about J.F. Berube at the beginning of the year, thinking like, this guy, what's he doing with the Flyers? That's the numbers that you would expect. His goals against 4.23 on the road.
Yuck.
That's just downright terrible. And I hate speaking about our, potential franchise goalie here in this type of light, but man, things have got to change. You've allowed 42 goals in 12 starts on the road. And then in contrast, you go home, 14 starts. He's started 14 home games and he stopped 372 of 393 shots. 21 goals allowed. His save percentage, a whole 10% better. 947.
Trying to do math.
Yeah,
Look at you.
I've been doing math all day. I'm surprised my brain cells still are firing on any type of cylinders here. But goals against, 1.49. He has been lights out at home in the Wells Fargo Center. He leaves the Wells Fargo Center and poops the bed. Flat out poops the bed.
And that's the thing, too, man. Like, people will always bring up the argument, like, he's not the only one, right? He's not the only one that's leading to this catastrophe. And I 100% agree with that.
Yes.
But, if something continues to keep happening on the road, like, it's the same team in front of him. And at home, they're doing well, and on the road, they're not. Yeah. And he's clearly comfortable at home. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what we got to do. Get some Quaaludes so he calms down on the road. But jeez Louise.
I mean, Elliott's not much better on the road. He's gotten more time on the road, I should say. I'm sorry. He's gotten one less start on the road than Carter Hart. But his numbers, he's got an .897 save percentage, of 3.44. And altogether, it's an .874, 3.84 goals against on the road for both these guys combined. At home combined, it's a 9.34, and it's a 1.82 goals against. While Elliott's save percentage is right around the same, home versus away. Goals against separated by 0.7. So, definitely Elliott's better at home. But, like, the mindset was, well, Elliott was doing better away, so let's start him on the away games. And Hart was doing better at home. Let's start him at the home games. And that's not really the case here because they're both not doing well away from Philly.
Right.
And it's not even just the goalies. If you have more to touch on with the goalies, let's do that first. But
what else is there honestly to say? Yeah, there's a huge discrepancy between their at-home performance and their away performance. And if we're supposed to be a playoff team, that ain't going to work.
No, it's not going to work. It bleeds into the special teams here as well, where when you're away and outside of Philly again, your power play is converting at a 15% rate. When you're home, it's converting at a almost 25% rate. Huge difference. Penalty kill, much the same. 76.8% you're killing penalties at a rate like that away, and then home, it's damn near 86%. It's just it's mind-boggling that they can play that much worse on the road.
I don't get it. How is this team so night and day when it comes to how they are at home? Like, obviously, listen, man, you're in your own building. You're always going to play better. Generally, at least. Mm-hmm. That's typically how it goes. You're in front of your own fans. You're more comfortable. But they're so bad away from home where it's like, is there a curfew at night? Are they like out partying too late? Like, what's going on? And then I'm not saying that they are, but like, there's got to be something that's preventing this team from being at least a smidge of what they are at home. They look like a completely different team.
Yeah, they're on completely different levels. Like you said, much to your point, it's night and day again. Day man and night man, if you guys catch this It's Always Sunny reference. But like it's I don't know what else to add to this argument, or to this discussion, I should say, because it's not an argument. We both agree that it's terrible. But it's not going to get much better.
No.
You look at this schedule, and you rattled these off to me, so I'll let you talk about these next few games that the Flyers have coming up.
Okay. So tomorrow they play Carolina, a good Carolina team, on the road. Again, last bit of the road trip. But then the next night, first game at home is the next night they play the Capitals. 7:30, NBC Sports Network. Hopefully don't have to listen to Pierre and his idiotic crap.
God.
Then they play the Lightning at home, which they're playing at home. Maybe they'll play well, but then they play Boston. Then they travel on the road to play St. Louis, and then the next night go back home to play Montreal. Now, Montreal is the only team, I think, of those teams that isn't currently in a playoff spot.
No, they are not in a playoff spot. They're within 10 points, but that's,
Right, but Carolina is, Washington is, Tampa is, Boston is, St. Louis is. And some of those are division leaders. Washington is division leader, Boston, and is St. Louis leading their division as well?
St. Louis is leading their division as of before the game started tonight. I'm not sure if they played tonight or not.
Right. I mean, and then after that back-to-back, you then have the Kings on another Saturday where, well, the Kings just made us look like idiots, so who knows? And then we close out the month with Pittsburgh, and then I'm assuming our bye week because I'm looking at a giant gap in games.
Yep.
And then Pittsburgh again on January 31st, and the Penguins have been resurrected as of recently. So
with all those injuries too, how in the hell does that happen?
I know it's. Could you? I don't know.
You just scream into the microphone for 30 minutes here and vent about it.
Like, honestly, though, man, the Flyer season could be over with after January.
Oh, I shudder to think.
And I hate to do that, and I hate to be dramatic, and I know I'm really fired up tonight, but
But you're right.
That's the case. I mean, they've got to start beating these teams. We got to go on a winning streak and knock off some of these teams. I mean, you have to beat Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
If you lose to Carolina on the road, you're losing to Washington at home too.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. You've got to take. Honestly, I'd even go as far as to say they need to beat Washington. It's a winnable game. At home, they play much better.
Yeah.
Coming back off that really bad road trip, there's got to be some type of motivation that's going to drive them to play so much better than what we've been seeing these past 5 games.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, to me, Carolina's going to be kind of like the tone setter.
Yeah.
Like, if they lose to Carolina, end the road trip with another loss, even though they're back in the East, then the next night they're going to play the division-leading Capitals. I don't think it's going to be pretty.
No, and that leads into, like you said, the Tampa Bay games, the Boston games. Man, it doesn't get any easier, folks. And, the Flyers have 22 games remaining that they play at home. Great sign, because there's only 18 games away. But in an ideal world, if they won every home game, if they lost every away game, that's 44 points right there. And add it to what we've got now, 93 points. Not going to get you a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference this year.
Nope. And the thing is, too, man, and I said this in an earlier episode when we had kind of that first losing streak. The games that they should have won and lost are going to come back and bite them in the rear end. Because you win those games to create a security blanket for when you hit rough patches like this.
Mm-hmm. Those games like the Islanders game where they let the Islanders essentially battle back in and then they won in overtime. They gave up that extra point. Those are the ones.
Yeah, well, I'm even thinking about the games when you play sucky competition and you should win. Like the Sharks and the Kings. You know what I mean? Right. These are games that if you're going to be a playoff team, a legitimate playoff team, you need to win them.
You're exactly right. And I mean, you think about it though, and I guess the one encouraging thing you might be able to take from some of these games is that last year at this time, if they're going to come out and give up 4 goals in the first period to an LA Kings team, that team folded easier than a lawn chair. And now they're actually staying competitive, you could say, to the point where they make you think that they might come back, and they end up ultimately not coming back, but at least you had that glimmer of hope.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I think this team is in a much better place than last year's team or the team before, as far as I do think that there's much more of a work ethic and a never quit attitude and a hunger. I'm not necessarily blaming anything to do on their work ethic. This team's been decimated by injuries to key players. There are some things that were just out of this team's control that are certainly playing a role in this. I do think long term this team is in a better place. But still, that doesn't mean that they're a playoff team because of all those things that have happened,
You think in a vacuum, if everything was perfect and they had all the players back that they were intending to start the year with, they might not be in this position right now. They might be sitting at 50-something points and in one of the top 3 spots in the Metro. Lindblom doesn't I shouldn't say comes down with Ewing sarcoma. Like
I know
that whole
what you
development doesn't happen. Konechny doesn't get taken out by that douchebag from Ottawa that I can't pronounce his name. Borvieski. That's what it is. Yeah. Let's say
Nolan
that
Patrick.
Way. Yeah, his migraines aren't happening. Like you've got right there your 3C. You've got the wingers that you want that are going to score, that are going to put pucks in the net. Your defense. I mean, even if you optimize the blue line, you want to call it optimizing. Everybody's got their definition of it. But Phil Myers is starting from the bat instead of Robert Haig. Maybe you sneak a couple of those games that you were talking about instead of letting them slip through your fingers.
Right. I mean, look at something even as simple as Scott Lawton, who at times has been a real bright spot for this team, and then he gets hurt. It's like he's playing well, he's lighting a spark, and then he gets hurt. And there's just so many of those things that are going wrong.
Yeah. The bottom, I shouldn't say the bottom six. Typically, it's just like the third line. They've been solid between guys like Pitlick and Lawton. And even, Raffle shows those glimpses as well. You have Albe Kubel, and now I guess Farabee's playing a lot of time on the third line as well. Or at least been playing down in the bottom six, which isn't ideal, but,
Can we sidebar for a second with him?
We might as well.
How much? So Morgan Frost gets sent down, right? Yep. I mean, totally get that. I understand. I'm not against it. But how much longer of a leash do you give Farabee? Because he's not, he's not in much of a different place as Frost was.
He's not. But
he's not producing.
No, he's not. He really isn't. The thing with that is, though, who are you going to put in the lineup? Is it worth putting Chris Stewart back in the lineup? Is he going to add more than a guy like Farabee would?
But could the same thing be said about Frost?
Well, you're right. Frost was kind of a bit of a luxury because it was. They'll say it wasn't spurned by injury, but we all know it was because injuries, suspensions. We needed somebody up, and Frost was basically the flashy name, and two, probably the best name available.
Right.
Frost just he fizzled a bit, and that's fine. He's young. He'll go back, and he's an AHL All-Star. Apparently, the other night he played like crap down there, but you have those games. Whatever,
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the tough one. Farabee's bought himself some time because he's been able to put up, I think it's 12 points in the games that he's played, but it's silent points because it's not like, again, he shows his youth by taking stupid fights and throwing that hit, regardless of whether you think it was suspendable or not. He got suspended. He missed 3 games, and those are 3 games that we probably could have used him.
Right. And that's the thing, right? I mean, if they're going to make the statement that, Morgan Frost is showing signs that he needs a little bit more time in the AHL. Like eventually, if Farabee does not start to pick it up, you're gonna have to make that same argument for him.
You're right. You can't really hold them to the same standard, but it's got to be similar.
No, but yeah, right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I completely get it that like Farabee is more of that well-balanced player right now for the NHL. But I do think there will come a point where if things don't change, they're going to have to.
Oh, of course. But the problem therein lies who's going to slot in. I mean, are you going to depend on a guy like Chris Stewart who really doesn't add much aside from a locker room presence? Are you going to...
I know.
Albe Kubel, I'm okay with sticking him up there and keep him there.
For sure.
Andrioff, are you okay with keeping a guy that, again, isn't contributing much? I'm not going to say nothing, but he's not contributing a ton in the way of, putting points up. And is he a presence out there? Sure, but...
I mean, it all depends on what this team looks like at the end of January, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, I'd be shocked, but say we lose all but one of these games or something, which is possible, we're in a completely different ballgame than we were, and then maybe sending Farabee down is the right thing to do. I agree. They don't really have the luxury to also send him down because who are you going to put in his place? But it'll be interesting to keep an eye on because like they did it with Frost and you can't look at them as completely 2 different entities.
You're right. I mean, they're not cut from the same cloth. I won't go down that.
They're both rookies.
Yeah.
I mean,
in that sense they are. Now, if it wouldn't have been, again, like we said, for Patrick, for a Lindblom situation to unfold, Farabee there'd be no problem just being like, hey, go back down,
Right.
refine your game. We've got players up here that can plug that hole until it's ready to be yours.
Right.
Again, though, they don't have that luxury anymore, and it's a lot tougher to make that case because, again, who's the better option? A guy like Farabee who's shown flashes, or a guy like Stewart who showed those flashes also, but 10 years ago.
Right.
It's tough. God, it's tough, man.
But I mean, all right. So then now we go back into things. You said that like you're not panicking or worried yet.
I have my hand over the panic button, but I have not pressed it yet.
All right. So I've already brought up January for you.
Okay.
Okay. Can I just talk about February for a second?
I'd love you to talk about February.
So first game of February, I believe it's the day after we play Pittsburgh.
Colorado.
Back-to-back Pittsburgh and Colorado. Mm-hmm. Now, then they play Detroit on the road, Detroit's a dumpster fire. Hopefully by that point we've proven we can handle dumpster fires, but you don't know.
Or maybe even stolen Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit by then.
Right. Then you got New Jersey, which, again, we should win, but you don't know. So, yes, those are two games where it should be easier. But then you look at Washington. Okay, you've got Florida, who's going to be in the mix for a playoff spot. You've got the Islanders. Then you got Florida again.
Tampa.
Then you got Tampa.
Columbus.
The Blue Jackets all of a sudden are playing great. Yep. Winnipeg.
San Jose again. And then you close out February with the Rangers, who are still technically in the hunt.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah.
But
they had a great offseason.
But it's not going to let up that much.
No. The frequency of the games might a bit. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we've had a lot of back-to-backs. But regardless, the competition steps up from here on out.
Yeah. Definitely the back end of the schedule gets harder, which brings back to the point where there's games that you should have won that you didn't, and it's going to come back and bite you in the rear end.
Yeah, if we're looking at this in retrospect and to try to break down what is left of this schedule until the beginning of April, we have 7 games left against division leaders, which makes up 17.5% of what we have left. 25% of what we have left, 10 games, are against people who are in the top 3 of their division, second or third place, I should say, excluding division leaders. 5 games left against wildcard opponents, 8 games left against opponents within 5 points of a wild card, and then 5 games against opponents within 10 points, which isn't saying much. They're slipping further and further into the rear view. But you've got 55% of your schedule left against teams in a playoff spot right now, and 32.5% of your schedule remaining is against teams who are in the hunt for a wild card spot, if not a division spot. Like you said, it doesn't get easier. This gets harder, and it's going to be a daunting task for the Flyers to make it into the playoffs if they want to do that.
Right. Now, I mean, this is a team that can turn it around. I mean, they've proven that they can. They've proven that they can, win a streak of games. So, I mean, I'm not panicking, but I am certainly worried.
Yeah. Now, there's a difference. I mean, I'm concerned. But I'm not going to be running up and down the street screaming, oh my God, time to hit the panic button. We're done. We're screwed. We're done. Right. 1, that's not me. 2, it just seems a bit too early for us to hit the panic button. And I'm not going to fan police. If you want to be concerned and you want to hit the panic button right now, all you. But
you have every right to.
Yeah, you do. Because there's reasons to panic. Right. But in the grand scheme of things, with what they've got remaining, I really think that it's still plenty feasible to believe that this team could pull it off and end up in the playoffs.
Right. The one thing is we are now back in that mix of 5 or 6 teams, I feel like, that can be saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, you even just look within our division. We're only, a point or 2 back from Pittsburgh. The Flyers are right with Columbus. Columbus is within 5 points of a wild card spot. Washington is they're way ahead. And then you've got teams like the Islanders. You've got another team in Carolina that they're probably going to be battling out for a wild card spot. Your top three in the Metro are probably going to end up being Washington, Pittsburgh, and honestly, I think it's going to be the Islanders.
Yeah.
If not Carolina, it'll be one of those two. Unless the Flyers can, get the let out here.
Right.
But it's, man, again, for probably the fifth time tonight, it's doable.
Right.
Yeah.
Ask me again February 1st.
Yeah. We'll do another end of the month where it's, how much worse or how much better has it gotten?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have questions that are going to kind of ask us about like trades and moves and things like that. So let's not go into that.
Of course.
But right now, before we move into that, because I'm assuming we're almost done with this part.
Yeah.
Right now, is this team making the playoffs?
Yes.
Go. Yes.
I still and I hate to be the whole, rah rah go Flyers. I like to see things objectively, but it's tough to say no to a team that, when you've seen them at their best, they're playing damn good hockey. But when you see them at their worst, it's not as bad as last year. Under Dave Haxtell, this team was flat. When they were flat, they were flat. Like me, like how flat I am. But
it's a weird thing to say, just so you know.
If I'd have compared it to, a different gender here, it might have been. It went over like a little. Anyways, yeah. Now, you take this away because I lost my train of thought here.
So you said yes, they're going to be a playoff team.
I believe so. I think they can make the playoffs. I don't.
Because you're bright side Bob.
I'm bright side Bob. Yeah. You've got backhand Bobby Brink and bright side Bob.
Well,
we should have a sitcom.
I'm Gloomy Gove.
Gloomy Gove, you good.
It really, I hate how I always take the pessimistic side of things, but life will freaking do that to you. And I look at where this team is now. Now there's still a whole other half to play, but they're moving in one direction while other teams that are pushing for a playoff spot are getting hot now. They have had so much bad news, from Nolan Patrick to Oscar Lindbaum to Scott Lawton to, just every little thing. Then after the holidays, they go on the road trip of doom. I'm just worried that now this team has a beaten mentality going into probably the roughest string of games they're going to have all season.
To be fair, though, and the way I kind of view things, I feel there, and I should preface this, there's no rationing on luck or being bit by the injury bug, but the Flyers have had their fair share of downs. It's time for some ups, and now is the time.
Sure. But again, I'm going to go back to the points that they should have gotten, that they didn't. And I truly believe that we're going to look back at the standings and go, that point that they lost against the Islanders, that loss that they had against the Kings, and be able to plug those and add those together and go, that was the difference.
You're right.
I hope I'm wrong, because that would so suck. We'd probably have a lot to talk about over the offseason. But
plenty.
Yeah, I right now just don't have a great feeling. So I'm going to go with that they're not going to make the playoffs right now. And I'll probably change my mind, because that's what I do.
But that your opinion also changes depending on the product.
Right.
I could sit here.
Is poop.
Yeah, and if it gets worse in a week or two, I might sit here and say, no, there's no way in hell they're making the playoffs. And that's just that. It's observation based,
And now this is the last thing I'm going to say on this.
Of course.
To close out this month, if they can't win more than 50% of these games, I'm ready to say they're not making the playoffs.
So how many games do they have in January remaining, I should say?
I got rid of it.
Well, let's see. I think I've got them pulled up here. So you've got the Carolina game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nine games. So if let's say they go 5-4, no overtime losses, 5-4. You're happy with that?
Mm,
You'd be
yeah,
happier
I
with
can deal with that.
6-3?
I 6-3, and I'm back to being we'll be a playoff team. 5-4, I'll be on the fence, but anything worse than 5-4, I'm not going to be. Yeah.
No, I definitely understand and agree with your assessment there because they lose the games to Vegas and Arizona. That already sets you back 2 games. You got the game against Carolina, Washington, Tampa, Boston. It's just, God, you're running the gauntlet here. You're playing some good teams. St. Louis is right after that. Pittsburgh, you close out the month.
They have to win tomorrow.
Tuesday. Start things off right. When you get back to the East Coast, you take care of business in Carolina, first and foremost. No doubts about it. Then you get into February, you see what happens. But as of right now, if you're going to give a point projection for the end of the year before the playoffs start, how many points do you think the Flyers get?
Oh, I suck at this.
I do too, but it's fun.
So they have how many points now? Do you have it up still?
49.
49 points. They have 40 games left.
40 games left.
49 points.
And of those, 22 of them are home, 18 of them are away. If that sways your point total.
Dude, I don't know. I feel like I'm guessing.
That's what this is.
Go 97.
97 points? All right. I'm going to go 98.
That 1 point's going to get him in the playoffs.
I'm going to Price is Right your ass.
All right.
Just go one above. Yeah, I mean, not incredibly encouraged by it, but 98 I feel like it's a fair amount that you look at that and say, hey, they could make the playoffs off a point total like that.
Right.
And we're not even going to talk about how far they'd make it in the playoffs because gloomy John Gove over here told everybody that they're not making the playoffs.
Well, here's the thing, man. Right now, do you see them getting anything more than a wild card spot?
No, honestly. But here's the thing.
Okay, dude, but it's right tough. There you've got Washington or Boston or Tampa probably.
You're right. However, if you think about it, that third wild card spot, and we talked, not wild card, I apologize, the third Metro spot, we talked about it before the season started. That's going to be up for grabs, and there's probably a 3-team swing where you've got Carolina, the Islanders, and the Flyers. And surprisingly, Columbus is hanging on for some god unknown reason because they've gotten rid of all their players, all their picks. They literally just had a fire sale last year, and these people are like the outcasts that are like, let's band together. Just do us a favor, Columbus. Stop it. Knock it off right now.
You know what's going to happen. They're going to make the playoffs, and then Josh McCown is going to have to play goalie.
Oh, please. I hope they're playing the Flyers for that.
I mean, but I feel like we can talk about this stuff forever, but we should probably move on.
No, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. We're only about like a half an hour in, but we also have some questions to get to.
No way.
No, we're 40.
Than that.
Wow.
I was going to say.
By. Good God. Anyways, guys, we're going to get to some Twitter questions here. It was just kind of a spur of the moment. Let's get a couple questions here, but we wanted to answer them. So we've got Richard Vale. Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Is Chucky Two Trades looking to buy or sell at the deadline to make a push this year, or chalk it up to a rebuild this season? Franco also added Comcast won't chalk anything up to anything. They want playoff revenue, and they want it this year. We know. Comcast is greedy. Thanks, Frank. Chucky Two Trades, is he going to buy or sell at this deadline? What do you think? And no in between.
I'm losing you.
All right. No in between. He's either buying.
Derek, where are you?
I can hear you perfectly. I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, now you're back.
How in the world?
You heard me singing?
I heard you singing, yes.
Nice.
I'll say I'd edit this out, but this is all one take.
But we don't edit anything.
Chucky Two Trades. Is he buying or selling? There is no in between.
Ugh.
One way or the other.
There's no in between. There really can't be an in between.
No, there's no in between. The only options he listed are buy or sell.
Crap. Well, they're not going to be enough out of it to sell. They'll be close to a playoff spot, so I'm going to just go buy because it makes the most sense, but I don't necessarily truly think that they'll be buyers.
If paired with what Frank said about Comcast, they're going to want to buy. They're going to want to put butts in seats for playoff time. And if they're close enough that, it's open to interpret, I agree. I think they're going to end up being buyers.
Yeah, I legitimately now that we're not answering his question, sidebar, I don't think they're going to be in a place to beat either.
Yeah, maybe they stand pat. But that, again, was not one of the options.
I know. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, we have another question coming from Lucas Rettel. Lucas from the Czech Republic. One of our international listeners. I love this stuff. 3 top flyer candidates to get traded. Man, I feel like this is unanimous with a lot of fans. And, I mean, people like us alike that, talk about the team. Let's be honest. You've got Goss to spare.
Yep, top of my list.
Voracek.
Yeah, Mr. Shoot the damn puck when you're in front of the net.
Don't even get me started.
Like, what?
Do we want to go off about this for a second here? We've got a minute or two.
Just go for it.
Listen, I don't care how old you are, I don't care what level of hockey, if it's street hockey or roller hockey, or if you're playing in your mom's basement on your knees, knee hockey, you shoot that puck. You shoot it. I don't care if there's a guy who's wide open, streaking down the middle of the ice. You shoot the damn puck.
Well, it just proves to you, Jake, the criticism that you get is true.
Yeah.
Block this asshole.
You haven't blocked our podcast, but you blocked me, and guess what, pal? You pissed me off because you didn't shoot that one. That was bad.
All right, so anyway, we got Ghost. We got Voracek.
And those are unanimous, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so who's your third?
It's got to be, I'm thinking if they do trade people, right, it's going to be like a culture kind of shakeup. So I got to go JVR.
I could see that, and I agree with it. But if they're also going to be sellers at the deadline, they're probably going to look to trade a prospect. And I can't think of a prospect who they'd be willing to move.
I said it didn't go that far.
And I probably am thinking way too much here, but I think if they're going to trade a prospect, it's probably going to be Isaac Ratcliffe.
Yeah.
Don't want that to happen, but it's a possibility.
Right. I mean, because at this point, Rubstov isn't going to give you the value that you one time thought he was going to. And
exactly. I think he's more valuable holding on to because I think he could still, give us something here with the Flyers or at the very least the Phantoms.
Right. Can you trade somebody who's injured?
Well, in NHL 20 you can. I don't know if you can actually in real life, but I don't know. I think there's rules to it. It has something to do probably with, whether you're on injured reserve or something like that.
Right.
If you're day to day, I don't think it's an issue, but if you're on, long-term injured reserve, if you're on injured reserve, I don't think you can.
I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah. So, no, Nolan Patrick's not getting traded.
Yeah, but hypothetically speaking,
I read your mind, didn't I?
You did. God. Hypothetically speaking, and you know what, everybody, you can yell at me for this because maybe it's not nice, but say he gets off injured reserve, and over this summer, right, we have the opportunity to get a scoring winger.
Okay.
And part of what they want is Nolan Patrick. And maybe it's a reasonable package involving Nolan Patrick. Do you consider that trade? Because we have so much prospect center depth. Now, maybe you do.
Maybe.
I feel bad even talking about that. I feel like a real jerk.
No, but let's be honest. It's not the first time someone's probably thought of this.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we should delve into that some other time. I think that
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's not an in-season thing, but like, yeah.
But
Anyway.
it's definitely something we could engage in discussion about, because I think it's a topic that you're not the first person to probably bring it up, and I don't think you'll be the last.
Right.
Now we get to I keep trying to stop myself when I say and I sound like an a-hole. I apologize.
Believe me, it's not because you say
I know that. Dick. We've got Joe Tillman has asked us a plethora of questions here. We're going to try to rattle through them here because we don't want to take too long. We have our first question from him, and he goes, when will the injuries stop? Braun is out until the All-Star game. We talked about that. The injuries need to stop because this is just getting out of hand.
Right. I mean, obviously, we can't really answer that question.
Yeah. We'll see.
But at this point, I'm ready to get like a notification that says, just all of a sudden, Jake Voracek's toes are falling off.
That'd be our
He
luck.
just took his foot out of his skate, and 4 toes were just in the skate.
Yeah. Migraine disorders, cancer, like it'd be the least surprising thing probably that happened this year. But his next question says, do we fall far and hard enough where we become sellers? Possible.
Here's the thing, man. What do we, and now maybe he has a question that has to do with this, but what do we truly have where we can become sellers? Because buyers at the deadline typically pick up rentals.
You're right.
Players with term typically don't get traded at the deadline for the most part.
It's not unheard of, but it's not the most common type of deal.
Right. So, like, what could we possibly trade away that would make us sellers? Because when you're sellers, you're trading your big names. You're not going to be able to trade away guys like Voracek. Maybe Ghost because his cap hit's not bad, but what buyer wants him?
Yeah, not a lot of people. I mean, you think about it, Montreal, there's been a lot of smoke with that lately, that, Montreal thinks he'd pair perfect on, I think the second pairing, which it's beyond me.
Where?
I don't know.
In Laval?
Yeah, with the Rockets. God. I just, man.
But no, in all seriousness, though, I don't legitimately think we could be sellers. I don't think we would be a team that people would want to come harvest our...
Unless someone comes up to Chuck Fletcher and says, we need JVR. And if I were Fletcher, I'd be like, you know what? Here he is. Take him.
Right.
It sucks because it's always been like this. I've written a piece about it. I've observed it. We've all observed it. He scores in bunches. But, man, when you're getting paid $7 million, you should be a little more consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of leads us into Joe's last question of this first tweet. He says, will anyone take Voracek or JVR's contract, or are they draft day trades / expansion draftees? Wink, wink.
So
draft day.
Yeah, I mean,
first.
I've said that a million times. If they're going to get traded, they'll be at the draft. I think Voracek is a little bit more marketable depending on who you compare him with. But, yeah, I mean, if we're going to trade them, I do think that then becomes a draft day trade. I do think that expansion draft-wise, right, you need to get to the cap floor. Both of these guys could be appealing.
Absolutely.
Because term will be, 2-3 years at that point?
Yeah, JVR signed a 5-year deal, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, this is his second full year, so it'll be his third full year. He'll only have 2 years left. Voracek
The expansion
will be
draft isn't
up.
this coming summer.
No, it's
the
next.
next summer. Right.
Voracek will be damn near up.
Well, Voracek's got 1 extra year than JVR.
He does, but it depends on what they want to take because they're going to get more skill with Voracek, but also $1 million and change more every year. We'll see. I think both of them would be good expansion draft, and then draft day, if anybody wants to kick the tires on them, Fletcher should sure as hell listen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and if this team doesn't make the playoffs, one of those guys is gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Someone needs to a head of one of those two needs to roll.
Right.
Which leads us to Joe's second tweet with 4 other questions. Who all could we actually trade? Who's valuable if we decide to sell, which kind of touched on there. Not
Right.
much. Ghost, maybe.
So let's
Braun?
just quickly look at like the guys.
Braun's a
What?
rental. You could consider Braun a rental because he's got 1 year left. But,
Right. I mean, I was just going to do that. If you look at like Tyler Pitlick,
yeah.
no. I mean, Vorobiev, no. Abe Kubel, no. That's not somebody you're going to sell. Chris Stewart, give me a break. Justin Braun and Robert Haig become the most likely.
Oh, there's a huge market for Robert Haig.
Right. I mean, one interesting name could be like maybe there's somebody with goalie issues, and like you see if you can get a little bit more out of Brian Elliott than you typically would.
Are you comfortable then calling up a guy like Berube or Lyon?
You're selling at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you might as well bring up Ustamenko. Like, who cares?
One of those guys could plug the hole in the AHL. I'm fairly certain that's within their compete levels. Next, from Joe, once again, who all could we target to acquire if we decide to buy realistically? We did talk about this in that the other episode. I think it was an episode or two. It was 2 episodes ago. And I've even looked at some of these trade deadline candidates in preparation of writing a piece.
Okay.
I've got 5 names, and some of them are going to be reaches.
Okay.
Number 1 on this list, and it's in no particular order, but Andreas Athanasiou from Detroit.
Okay. Happy to see you.
Yeah, Andreas, happy to see you. $3 million a year, and he's an RFA at the end of the year. Something, the cap hit's not bad.
No, he's fast, too. I mean, I like him.
Yeah. Next guy is Jonathan Drouin.
He's really hurt, isn't he?
I think he's hurt. His name's just been floated out there in the whole, trade wins. Everybody's like, Drouin might get moved. Not necessarily a fan of wanting to acquire him or not, but it's out there.
Yeah, I mean, if it was back in his Tampa days, I would say it's a whole different ballgame. I really liked him in Tampa.
For sure.
But, yeah.
Third guy, Kyle Turris, and I like this. Now, the $6 million a year through 2024 isn't the most attractive thing, but if Fletcher could find a way to make that work, we might have a decent 3C. You got a guy like Jake. That's $13 million right there, just between your one winger and center on the third line.
Yeah, I mean, could argue that Kyle Turris and Kevin Hayes.
Yeah, but
are similar enough where,
I think, to me at least, and I could obviously be wrong here, I feel like Turris has a bit more of a scoring touch than Hayes does. Hayes is more of that power forward, which we need that, and I like him at 2C. But this ensures that we don't have to move Giroux back to center in any type of way because, let's be honest, he's better on the wing. Much better on the wing.
But he's not a rental, man. You would have to then commit to him until 2024. We don't want it. We don't want to do that.
Or is this a way to jumpstart JVR and Voracek? One of them at least, and then you could put Turris on the unprotected list for the expansion draft.
Yeah, but I feel like your plan right now is to want to put one of those guys. You're counting on too many things falling your way when
too many
most
variables.
things aren't. Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, no, I don't like that one.
Next name, Jean-Gabriel Pageau. He's a rental.
He's in Carolina now?
Ottawa. $3.1 million just for this year. And obviously prorated, it won't be 3.1, but if it's financially doable.
And he's having a good year.
He's having a pretty good year for Ottawa, and
right.
Take that as
and Ottawa's
you will.
Always going to look to restack. I mean, he's young, isn't he?
He's pretty young, yeah, but he's also if I'm not mistaken, I think he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year.
I'm looking right now. He is a UFA. He's 27, so he's not
old, but he's not young. He's not a prospect, or he's not a kid that's going to grow into something.
So he would be a rental.
Yeah, he'd be
I'd be cool with that.
And the last guy, Kasperi Kapanen. Not necessarily a rental, but again, this name, he's been floated out there for a couple years now, I feel like. He's making $3.2 million a year, and he's signed through 2022, and he'll be an RFA after that still. I wanted him last year when that name was being thrown around. I would have loved to have Kasperi Kapanen on the Flyers. I've cooled off a bit on that front, but if the price is right, do it.
Can I go back to Ottawa for a second?
Yes.
If you're Ottawa and the Flyers offer you a second-round pick and a prospect for Anthony Duclair, do you take it? Because I still think, I think that Ottawa has some really nice young pieces, but I still do think they're a few years away. Mm-hmm. He's going to be an RFA. He's having a great year. Why don't you sell high on him? Obviously, if you're the Flyers, you're not going to want to give up a first-round pick for him. I think that would be foolish. Yeah. But if you come on, we could get rid of a second-round pick. I think we'd be fine. And get rid of a prospect and maybe even – God, I don't know if I'd go this far, but maybe Ratcliffe. Just say, hey, he's a younger winger. That's a little too much for me on the Flyer side of things.
Yeah. Now, Duclair will be an RFA after this year, and then and this was after 32. This is the last time we talked about Duclair. He had 22 points in 32 games. He's hit the 20-goal mark since then.
Yep.
Man, and I've said it before, I'd love to have Anthony Duclair on the Flyers.
Oh, for sure. So if we could do a second-round pick and maybe a middle-tier prospect.
If we're going to make the playoffs and our pick is going to consistently be from 20 on, second-round pick, I don't give a rat's you-know-what about. Just get rid of it and give me somebody that's going to get us there.
21 goals he's got right now. Goal scorer.
How many assists does he have again?
11.
Okay, so he's gotten 4 assists since then. So 21 goals, you said?
Yep.
And 11 assists. That's 32 points. Not bad. It's not something that's going to blow your socks off, but it's enough. You know? I like it.
And that's what they're going to be looking for. All right, we should really finish up this guy's questions.
Next question, second to last. What causes these road trip horrors? We went through all that. The penalty kill, the power play, the goalies, everything really. It's
Carter not having his teddy bear.
It's bad, yeah. Yep. Last question. Is Lindblom's situation the biggest reason for the struggles offensively the past month? Tough. Tough to answer something like this.
And it kind of puts a little pit in your stomach too, because because it's so much bigger. But if we're talking about hockey, I think that the Oscar Lindblom situation is taking a toll on this team in general.
100%.
They talk about how tight this locker room was. This kid was having his best season by far. He was a huge part of this team's success. They were all gelling, all getting along. And then they get thrown this. It's gonna affect you on top of everything else. I do think that news is playing a major role in their struggles, but I don't necessarily. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not the main factor as to why they've been struggling offensively, but it definitely is part of it because there's so many other things. Lawton was out, like you said. Konechny had a concussion. They've been going through the lines are constantly jumbling, and
that bottom six is just,
it's constant turnover rate,
I never know, who's going to be up from the AHL on any given day.
Yeah. They've made...
Have your partner round and round.
Even
sure that you don't fall down.
Hell, Vorobyev's still up. Ugh. Don't even get either of us started on that. But no, Lindblom is not the only...
You're not giving him a chance. He's still a young prospect. Shut up.
He had his chance. Done.
He's had more... Get rid of him.
Yeah.
Stupid ass idiots.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Insane. But Oscar Lindblom is not the only reason why.
Right.
Folks, we've reached that time in the episode where it's pretty much it. We do have one, though, big announcement that we did promise you. John's looking at me right now with something on his forehead. I think he just...
It's a parrot sticker.
You look like an a-hole. What? Asshole.
Fell off.
Oh. Well, folks, John and I have been doing some talking here. And
for about an hour.
Yeah, well, here too, and throughout the week, and obviously we've had a lot of time to talk. Behind the scenes, we've been talking, and we've decided that Pod Street Bullies just isn't enough for us.
Yeah, boy.
So what we're going to do from here on out is it's the same podcast. It is the same name. We're still going to be the Pod Street Bullies. But there's going to be an extra episode for you folks halfway through the week that's going to be called Pod Street Prospects. So an untapped market, to my knowledge. We're going to start talking about John Gove's bread and butter, the prospect system that the Flyers have been flaunting for years now, ever since Hextall restocked those cupboards. We will record sometime in the middle of the week. Yes, this isn't going to be the hour long. This will probably be, anywhere
30 minutes.
15, 30 to 40 minutes max.
Right.
Just to kind of, it's a farm check. We're checking up, making sure everything's good on the farm, who's been performing well, who's not been performing well. What to look forward to. Our first episode, we are debuting it later this week. We should be recording Thursday night, and you'll have it Friday. We're probably going to end up touching a lot on the World Junior Classic just because it just ended here, and there's a lot to talk about with the Flyers having 4 prospects in there, one of them making the gold medal game. Yep. We'll talk more about that, obviously, without giving it any away right now. But we're getting bigger. We're getting better, which, believe it or not, it's possible we can actually get better.
Yeah.
But, folks, that has been it for the Pod Street Bullies. Butt folks. You butt folks.
All you butt folks. Anybody who listens to Pod Street Bullies moving forward is called a butt folk.
Yes, all you butt folks. Listen up. John's going to tell you where you can find him.
You can find me at Pod Street Gove on Twitter. Yeah, I mean, you can find my articles at Philly Sports Network. I get so tired of saying this. Like, already.
Oh, I know. If you don't know, you should.
Yeah. You should.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
You definitely should.
Pod Street Gove.
Pod Street Gove. I'm Pod Street Bob. You can find my work on PSN as well. A lot of stuff behind the scenes typically too. But for that and for this week, this has been the Pod Street Bullies, folks. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And as always, let's go Flyers.
Bye now.